NPCs, to me, one of the most fascinating parts of video games. It's hard for me to think of a genre they're not in, whether it's a cozy platformer, survival adventure, hell, even racing games. They add an additional dimension to the gaming experience that make virtual worlds feel more immersive. They can be fun to get to know, mess with, and if you consider enemies and bosses NPCs, even fight. Hi everyone, this is Baby Carrot, and today I'm going to be talking about an interesting classification system for social agents in video games that I found. I'm actually a PhD student working on my dissertation right now, so bear with me as I sometimes maybe talk about things in a not so fun way. Anyway, this topic has to do with my research area, and I was reading, and I came across this article, A Taxonomy of Social Roles of Agents in Games, by Portuguese scholar Diogo Rato and Rui Prada, so sorry if I'm mispronouncing those. That would be this guy and this guy, both of whom study games AI, social agents, social cognition, and artificial intelligence. What I'll be covering in this video is based on their taxonomy model they put forth in this article, or in other words, their proposal for how to categorize social agents. Here's a look at my whiteboard after reading their work. Ignore the drawing of my dog in the middle. What are social agents, though? They're agents that are social.
Good day. Good day. Good day. Good day. Good day.
This includes you and me, too. Rato and Prada's model includes all social agents in video games, including players and those who may affect the player but are not actually in the game. This leads me to the first part of the model, the dimensional axis. Okay, sounds fancy. This is broken down into three categories: player, gameplay, and narrative. The player dimension refers to us in our real world. This includes players and onlookers. This even includes your little brother sitting next to you with an unplugged controller asking you questions about the game, or maybe you're the little brother and the onlooker is your older sibling offering you advice on how to proceed. Okay, cool, but that's not what we're talking about in this video. What we're interested in, or what I'm interested in anyway, are the other two dimensions. First up is gameplay. This is the dimension in which the social agents, player or NPC, affect the state of the virtual world. Basically, if they're present in the virtual world, they're in some way affecting the gameplay dimension. Then we have narrative. This is when characters take part in the game's, you guessed it, narrative or story. Rato and Prada say it more eloquently, the social interactions from this point of view sustain the fantasy conveyed by the game. While the gameplay dimension includes background NPCs just walking around, the narrative dimension's social agents are crucial for the story. Okay, let's take a step back for a moment. According to the model so far, NPCs live here and here. Okay, moving on to types of interactions surrounding games. There are two main categories here: in-game interactions and out-of-game interactions. For in-game interactions, there are in-character and out-of-character. In-character actions are what we may call diegetic, or taking place and making sense within the scope of the game world. I've seen it mentioned in other videos, but an example of what diegetic is outside the scope of social interactions is the status bar in Dead Space. Rather than having a traditional HUD on the screen, Isaac's health is displayed on the back of his suit. It's visible and useful to the player and makes sense in the game world. So for our purposes, this is when the character is acting, well, in character. For example, the hunter in Bloodborne engaging in a fight against an enemy, or selecting mysterious dialogue as Geralt in The Witcher.
Something tells me my most interesting is yet to come. Go on, next question, before my beard grows back in.
Now, out-of-character interactions would be like stealing from a shop as Link. Canonically, he wouldn't do this, but the player controlling him might. Out-of-character interactions are more common with players forcing the player character into doing something they wouldn't really do, but I think you can make the argument that mods also accomplish this for NPCs. Like installing a mod so that Nick Valentine is a romance option, or having your companions in Skyrim fight Thomas the Tank Engine. Now what about out-of-game interactions? Again, we have two categories. This time they're called interpersonal and cross-dimensional. Interpersonal goes back to player-to-player interactions. like discussing games on forums or voice chat. Again, I'm not really talking about players today, so moving on to cross-dimensional. This can be the direct player input, like moving your little guys around on a map, or breaking the fourth wall. Let's take another step back. Cool. Now we get into what I think is the fun stuff. Is it actually fun? I don't know, but I'm the one making a video on a peer-reviewed article, so maybe I'm not the best judge. For social agents, or in our case NPCs, we can now talk about their social roles. We have 3 categories here: goal alignment, symmetry, and exchanged elements. Goal alignments are then broken down into an additional 3 categories: support, contest, and neutral. Supporting NPCs are, you guessed it, supportive of the player. They're cooperative, helpful, on your side. They want to see you win. They're here to see you succeed. On the other side of the spectrum are those in the contest category that, they contest you. They're working against you. Whether it's playful or genuinely out of malice, they're here to see you lose. Depending on how you yourself classify NPCs, this could include bosses and general enemies as well. The last category is pretty straightforward. These are neutral characters. They're usually just background characters, but can even be characters like merchants that don't really take sides. They're here to do their thing regardless of the circumstances. The next classification of social roles is symmetry. This is pretty straightforward. Is their standing in the game symmetrical to you? Maybe they're your teammate, or you're equally pitted against each other. What comes to mind for me are summons and invaders in Dark Souls and Elden Ring. One is supportive, and the other is contestive, but both are, in theory, symmetrical to the player character. Alternatively, we have asymmetrical. For those that are supportive, this could be a mentor-student situation, or maybe a guardian sort of thing. For those contesting the player, this is where I would put bosses or overall antagonists, even if the player isn't directly fighting them. Okay, last category is exchanged elements. According to Rato Prada, there are 4 types of exchanged elements. Information, which are things like exposition of the game world or information like how to play the game. Then there's resources, so like buying or trading actual items.
A choice of an avid gun collector. It's a nice gun, stranger.
There are also goals, which you can think of as when an NPC gives out quests.
When thou ringest the bell of awakening, the fate of the undead thou shalt know. Well, now you know, and I can die with hope in my heart.
And finally, actions. This one, I'll admit, is a little confusing to me, but from my understanding, it's when you perform an action for an NPC, like completing a quest, or when they complete an action for you. Okay, here's a final step back and overall look at the taxonomy. I think this model is really cool because these categories aren't hard set. NPCs can exist in multiple at one time or move between them as their character and the narrative progresses. Why does this matter to you? Maybe it doesn't. That's cool. But if you're a developer, maybe this will help spark some ideas on creating some NPCs and how they can function in your game. Either way, I thought it was cool and wanted to make a video on it, and this was a nice change of pace from my regular writing for school. If you have any additional thoughts, let me know, and thank you so much for watching.